My friends, success is not an accident. It is not a matter of luck, nor is it reserved for the privileged few. Success is a deliberate choice, a habit, a discipline, a way of living. And if there is one habit that separates the triumphant from the mediocre, it is this, the habit of rising early and seizing the day before the world awakens. The early morning hours hold a secret power. While others sleep, the achiever is already at work planning, thinking, acting. The mind is sharpest in the quiet of dawn, free from distraction, full of creative energy. This is the time when great ideas are born, when resolve is strengthened, when the foundation of a productive day is laid. Think of the most successful men and women in history. What did they have in common? They did not linger in bed. They understood that time is the one commodity we cannot reclaim. And so they made the most of every precious moment. They rose before the sun, not out of obligation, but out of purpose. When you wake up early, you take control of your life. You are no longer reacting to the demands of the world. You are commanding your destiny. You exercise, you read, you plan your day with precision. You feed your mind with thoughts of victory, not defeat. You move while others are still paralyzed by procrastination. But waking early is not just about time, it is about mindset. It is a declaration that you refuse to live by chance. It is a commitment to excellence, to discipline, to the unwavering belief that you are the master of your fate. Success is not an accident. It is not a random stroke of luck, nor is it reserved for a select few born under fortunate circumstances. True success, the kind that endures, that creates legacies and transforms lives, is the result of deliberate choice, unwavering discipline, and consistent action. Every achievement in history, from empires built to groundbreaking innovations, began as a decision in someone's mind. That decision was then reinforced daily through habits, mindset, and relentless effort. Consider this: two individuals may face identical circumstances, yet one rises while the other remains stagnant. The difference lies not in opportunity, but in how each chooses to respond. The successful person decides in advance that setbacks are temporary, that effort compounds over time, and that every day presents a chance to move closer to their vision. They do not wait for motivation, they cultivate it through action. They do not blame external conditions, they focus on what they can control. Success, therefore, is a mindset before it becomes a reality. It is the refusal to accept mediocrity, the courage to demand more of oneself, and the wisdom to recognize that small, daily disciplines lead to monumental results over time. Think of the farmer who plants seeds with the faith they will grow. He does not dig them up daily to check progress. He trusts the process. Similarly, success is built on trusting the process of showing up, putting in the work, and staying the course even when results aren't immediate. Every choice matters. The decision to wake up an hour earlier, to read instead of scroll mindlessly, to seek solutions rather than dwell on problems. These choices, repeated over time, create an unshakable foundation. Success also demands accountability. It requires looking in the mirror and admitting that excuses, no matter how justified, will never produce the desired outcome. The moment you take full responsibility for your life is the moment you reclaim the power to change it. This is why success is a choice, because it begins and ends with your willingness to act, persist, and outlast obstacles. There is no magic formula, no secret shortcut. There is only the cold, hard truth that those who achieve greatness are those who commit to it unconditionally, day after day, long after others have quit. The path is open to anyone, but only those who choose to walk it will arrive at the destination. The quiet hours before dawn hold a secret known to every great achiever, an undisturbed stretch of time where focus sharpens, clarity deepens, and the world's distractions haven't yet stirred. This is when the magic happens. While others surrender to the pull of their pillows, the early riser is already at work, harnessing a psychological edge that compounds over weeks, months, and years. Science confirms what the successful have long practiced. The brain's prefrontal cortex, the seat of willpower and decision-making, is most active in the morning. Without the noise of emails, social media, or competing demands, your mind operates at peak efficiency. Think of it as a mental clean slate where the most important tasks of the day can be tackled with undivided attention. History's titans from Benjamin Franklin to modern CEOs structured their lives around this principle, not as a sacrifice, but as a strategic advantage. They understood that the first hour set the tone for everything that follows. A morning wasted in lethargy often becomes a day of reactive scrambling, but a morning seized with purpose creates momentum that carries through every meeting, conversation, and challenge. The early hours also offer something even more valuable: solitude. In a world addicted to constant connection, solitude is where original thought thrives. It's when you hear your own ideas clearly, refine your goals, and align your actions with your long-term vision. This isn't just about productivity, it's about sovereignty over your life. Every minute you wake before the world is a minute you invest in yourself before serving others' agendas. Consider the physical benefits. Studies link early rising to better sleep cycles, lower stress levels, and even improved metabolic health. But beyond biology lies the deeper truth: rising early is an act of self-respect. It declares that your dreams matter enough to prioritize them before the day's chaos erupts. The discipline required to consistently wake at 5 a.m. trains the same muscle used to resist temptation, to execute long-term plans. Athletes, artists, and innovators all share this trait. They don't wait for inspiration to strike. They create the conditions for it through ritual. Your first hour awake can become a sacred space for exercise, learning, or strategic planning activities that nourish growth rather than deplete it. Contrast this with the alternative: rushing into the day frazzled, checking notifications before your feet hit the floor, letting outside demands dictate your mental state. The difference isn't just in output, it's in identity. Early rising reinforces the belief that you're someone who takes life seriously, who honors commitments, especially to yourself. Over time, this identity reshapes your entire trajectory. The resistance to waking, early resistance to greatness itself, a preferentino for temporary comfort over lasting achievement. But here's the liberating paradox: the discomfort of that initial alarm fades within minutes, while the rewards of those extra hours compound for a lifetime. The early morning hours offer a unique window of mental clarity that cannot be replicated at any other time of day. As the world still sleeps, your mind operates at its highest potential, free from the accumulated fatigue of decision-making that depletes willpower as the day progresses. This phenomenon, known as decision fatigue, explains why your most important work should happen before noon. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for focus and complex cognitive tasks, is freshly rested and unburdened by the thousands of micro decisions that will later drain your mental reserves. Scientific studies on circadian rhythms confirm that alertness peaks within 2 to 4 hours of waking, making this the ideal time for strategic thinking, creative problem solving, and deep work that demands intense concentration. History's greatest minds instinctively understood this principle. Ernest Hemingway wrote his best work at dawn, when no one can disturb you. Apple CEO Tim Cook begins his day at 3:45 a.m. to gain undisturbed planning time. What appears as extraordinary discipline is actually strategic optimization, leveraging biology's natural advantages. The morning mind hasn't yet been cluttered with conversations, news cycles, or emotional reactions. It's in this pristine state that breakthrough ideas emerge most readily. Consider how many shower thoughts or sudden insights occur in the morning. This is no coincidence, but rather your brain's ability to make novel connections when rested and undisturbed. Beyond cognitive performance, morning clarity provides emotional leverage. Starting your day with intention creates a psychological win that builds confidence and sets a positive trajectory. Completing a workout, journaling, or making progress on an important project before breakfast creates momentum that carries through subsequent hours. This contrasts sharply with waking rushed and reactive, where you begin the day already behind a mental state that often leads to poor choices and compromised productivity. The morning offers what psychologists call implementation intention opportunities, specific if then planning that dramatically increases follow through. When you strategize your day in the quiet morning hours, you're 40% more likely to execute important tasks compared to planning amid daily distractions. The spiritual and philosophical traditions of every culture have long revered dawn as sacred time for reflection and intention setting. From Buddhist monks' morning meditations to Benjamin Franklin's famous morning question, "What good shall I do today?" This cross-cultural wisdom points to a universal truth: how you begin your day profoundly influences its quality. Modern neuroscience now confirms that morning visualization and affirmation practices can physically rewire neural pathways towards success-oriented thinking. The morning mind is exceptionally receptive to programming, whether positive or negative, making those first hours the most consequential for shaping your mindset. Practical application of this principle transforms not just productivity, but identity. When you consistently use mornings for focused work on your most important goals, you reinforce the self-concept of someone who achieves what they set out to do. This creates a virtuous cycle where discipline breeds results, which in turn strengthens discipline. The alternative, sleeping through this golden window, means constantly fighting uphill against distraction, fatigue, and competing demands. Morning clarity isn't just about getting more done, it's about doing what matters most with unprecedented precision and purpose. Time is the ultimate non-renewable resource once spent. It can never be recovered. While money lost can be re-earned and relationships strained can be repaired, the minutes and hours that slip through our fingers are gone forever. This irrevocable truth separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those who merely dream about them. High achievers treat time with the reverence of a master craftsman handling rare materials, measuring twice, cutting once, and wasting nothing. They understand that how one spends their days is in fact how one spends their life. The morning hours represent time in its purest, most potent form, untainted by the exhaustion of decision fatigue or the clutters others' demands. The science of chronobiology reveals that our cognitive abilities peak during specific windows, with most people experiencing their highest alertness and problem-solving capacity in the morning. This makes the early hours disproportionately valuable. What you accomplish between 5 and 8 a.m. often requires twice the effort attempted later in the day. Consider the compounding effect. Waking just 1 hour earlier each day grants you an extra 15 full days of productive time annually. Over a decade, this becomes nearly half a year of bonus waking hours, enough to master new skills, build businesses, or transform health. Historical luminaries from Michelangelo to Elon Musk leveraged this principle, treating dawn as their private workshop where masterpieces took shape before the world interrupted. Modern productivity research confirms that time-blocking morning hours for deep work yields exponential returns. A MIT study found that 90 minutes of uninterrupted morning work produces better results than 4 hours of fragmented afternoon effort. The reason lies in our neurochemistry. Morning light exposure regulates cortisol and dopamine levels, enhancing both focus and motivation. This biological advantage creates what psychologists call success spirals, where morning accomplishments trigger positive neurotransmitters that fuel further productivity throughout the day. Contrast this with the all too common pattern of sleeping until the last possible moment, then rushing into reactive mode, approach that neurologically primes this restless brain for stress rather than strategic thinking. The stewardship of time extends beyond mere efficiency. Ancient wisdom traditions from Stoicism to Zen Buddhism emphasize morning contemplation of mortality not as morbid fixation, but as clarifying lens. Marcus Aurelius began each day reminding himself you could leave life right now. This practice, known in Greek as memento mori, sharpens priorities with surgical precision. When we genuinely internalize that our days are numbered, we stop postponing what matters. The morning becomes sacred ground for aligning actions with purpose, rather than defaulting to society's endless busyness. Modern behavioral economics confirms this. People who visualize time as finite make radically better decisions about its use. Practical time mastery begins with recognizing that willpower alone cannot outmaneuver biology. Stanford research demonstrates that environment design, not motivation, determines 80% of time utilization success. This means preparing the night before, placing workout clothes by the bed, pre-programming coffee makers, and removing digital distractions. The military's prepare the battlefield principle applies perfectly. Victory goes to those who eliminate friction between intention and action. Tracking morning time usage with the precision of a financial audit reveals surprising insights. Most people discover they've been unknowingly wasting 30 to 40% of their peak cognitive hours on trivialities. The ultimate differentiator between mediocrity and mastery lies in this time awareness. While the average person sleeps through their most valuable hours, then complains about not having enough time, the exceptional individual recognizes that time cannot be managed, only prioritized. Every morning presents the same blank canvas to all. What varies is the painter's skill, vision, and willingness to begin, while others linger in dreams. The choice to reclaim your mornings is ultimately the choice to reclaim your life's trajectory, one irreplaceable sunrise at a time. The fundamental difference between those who shape their destiny and those who are shaped by circumstances lies in one critical distinction: proactive versus reactive living. Early risers don't just gain extra hours, they gain command over their entire day before the world has a chance to impose its demands. This is the essence of true leadership, starting with the mastery of self. When you wake while others sleep, you operate from a position of strength rather than playing catch up with emails, social obligations, and other people's priorities. The first hours become your strategic headquarters, a quiet war room where you plan your daily campaign rather than being conscripted into someone else's agenda. Neuroscience reveals that willpower functions like a muscle, strongest when fresh and depleted through use. By front-loading your day with proactive decisions, you leverage peak mental resources to establish control before fatigue sets in. Research from the University of Nottingham shows that people who complete their most important task before 9 a.m., 87% productivity throughout the day compared to those who start with reactive work, like checking emails. This isn't just about time management, it's about cognitive hierarchy. Your brain's executive function, responsible for planning and impulse control, is most effective when first awakened, making early mornings the perfect time to align actions with long-term objectives rather than short-term urgencies. Consider the compounding effect of this practice. Each morning you dedicate to proactive work creates a ripple effect. Better decisions lead to better outcomes, which create more opportunities to stay proactive. It's a virtuous cycle that builds momentum. Meanwhile, reactive living traps you in a doom loop, constantly got fires, low energy to prevent them, guaranteeing more fires tomorrow. The U.S. Army's left of bang doctrine, anticipating threats before they occur, applies equally to civilian life. Morning solitude provides the vantage point to spot potential problems while they're still manageable and opportunities while they're still ripe. Psychological studies on locus of control demonstrate that people who believe they direct their lives, internal locus, achieve significantly more than those who feel at the mercy of external forces. Waking early is the physical manifestation of this mindset, a daily vote for self-determination. When you design your morning ritual intentionally, whether through meditation, strategic planning, or skill development, you're not just organizing time, you're conditioning your identity as someone who creates rather than responds. This self-concept then permeates all other areas of life, from business negotiations to personal relationships. The practical power of this approach reveals itself in unexpected ways. Early risers report higher levels of creativity because their brains have time for associative thinking, the relaxed state where breakthrough ideas emerge before the day's noise begins. They experience less decision fatigue because major choices are made in the clarity of morning rather than the exhaustion of evening. Perhaps most importantly, they enjoy greater emotional resilience, having started the day centered rather than rushed. In our hyper-connected world, where attention is the new currency, those who can protect and direct their focus will always outperform those who surrender it. The choice to wake early and work proactively is ultimately a choice about who you become. Every morning presents a fork in the road. One path leads to mastery, the other to mediocrity. The former requires temporary discomfort for lasting gain. The latter offers temporary comfort for lasting regret. Between the first alarm and sunrise lies the testing ground where ordinary people transform into architects of extraordinary lives. The most enduring myth about success is that it belongs exclusively to geniuses or the exceptionally gifted, when in reality, history's most accomplished figures simply masters of consistent daily rituals. What appears as extraordinary achievement is almost always the compound interest of small, disciplined actions repeated over time. The habit of rising early stands as a cornerstone ritual across cultures and centuries because it creates a domino effect of productivity, clarity, and self-mastery. From ancient military commanders to modern tech visionaries, high performers share this non-negotiable practice not because they're inherently different, but because they recognized early that routine shapes destiny far more than inspiration ever could. Psychological research reveals that nearly 45% of our daily behaviors are automatic habits operating beneath conscious awareness. This neurological reality makes morning routines particularly powerful, as the first hours establish the cognitive and emotional patterns for everything that follows. A Duke University study demonstrated that people with structured morning rituals exhibit significantly higher willpower reserves throughout the day, as the brain conserves mental energy by automating positive behaviors. The military's use of morning drills, from making beds with precision to standardized physical training, isn't about the tasks themselves, but about installing the neural architecture of discipline that transfers to combat situations. Similarly, civilian high achievers use morning routines to program their minds for excellence before encountering the day's challenges. The biographies of transformative figures reveal striking similarities in their dawn rituals. Beethoven counted exactly 60 coffee beans each morning before composing. Georgia O'Keeffe painted at first light when the desert colors were most vivid. What these varied routines share is intentionality, a deliberate design of the morning hours to align actions with purpose. Modern neuroscience confirms that habit formation follows a predictable loop: cue, routine, reward. Early risers leverage this by attaching new habits to the reliable cue of waking, then reinforcing them with the reward of uninterrupted progress. Over time, this creates what psychologists call automaticity, where discipline becomes effortless because it's woven into identity. The competitive advantage of morning rituals extends beyond productivity. Sleep studies show that consistent wake times regulate circadian rhythms, improving sleep by up to 40%. This creates a positive feedback loop. Better sleep enables more energetic mornings, which in turn promote better sleep. The metabolic benefits are equally significant. Research from the University of Colorado found that early risers have more stable blood sugar levels and make healthier food choices throughout the day. Perhaps most importantly, morning solitude provides psychological insulation against the stress of modern life. A Harvard Medical School study demonstrated that just 15 minutes of morning reflection lowers cortisol levels and increases emotional resilience for the ensuing 10 to 12 hours. The transformative power of these rituals lies in their cumulative nature. While a single early morning may seem inconsequential, the aggregate effect over months and years becomes life-altering. Consider the math. Reading 20 pages each morning equals 36 books annually. Writing 500 words at dawn produces a novel in 6 months. 30 minutes of language study before breakfast leads to fluency faster than most college programs. These outcomes aren't the result of superhuman effort, but consistent application of the brain's natural learning cycles, which are most receptive in the morning hours. Ultimately, the morning ritual is the great equalizer available to all but utilized by few. It requires no special talent, only the decision to trade temporary comfort for enduring advantage. The resistance felt when the alarm sounds is precisely the threshold between who you are and who you can become. Every disciplined morning is a brick in the foundation of an extraordinary life laid while the world still sleeps. The first 60 minutes after waking represent the most psychologically malleable window of your day, a golden hour where your mind is most receptive to programming its own operating system. What you feed your consciousness during this vulnerable period establishes the emotional and intellectual framework for everything that follows. High achievers throughout history have treated this time with sacred reverence, understanding that morning input directly shapes daily output. Just as a computer boots up with specific protocols, your brain absorbs and internalizes the quality of thoughts, stimuli, and environment it encounters upon awakening. This neurological reality makes your morning mental diet more consequential than your breakfast choices. One fuels your body, the other fuels your destiny. Neuroscientific research reveals that the brain transitions from sleep to wakefulness through a process called synaptic priming, where neural pathways become exceptionally sensitive to initial stimuli. Harvard's Department of Psychology found that subjects exposed to positive, goal-oriented material within 30 minutes of waking demonstrated 27% greater focus and 33% higher problem-solving ability throughout the day compared to those who began with neutral or negative input. This phenomenon explains why successful individuals deliberately design their morning mental environment, whether through inspirational reading, visualization exercises, or strategic planning to capitalize on the brain's heightened suggestibility. The ancient practice of morning pages, stream of consciousness, writing upon waking, and modern journaling techniques both leverage this window to clear mental clutter and surface creative insights. The impact of morning mindset conditioning extends beyond cognitive performance to emotional regulation. Studies on effective neuroscience demonstrate that exposure to uplifting or purposeful content within the first hour after waking creates an emotional inertia that persists for hours. This explains why Navy SEAL candidates are trained to recite personal mantras immediately upon rising. The practice builds psychological resilience before daily challenges emerge. Similarly, world-class athletes use morning visualization techniques not merely as preparation, but as neural programming. fMRI scans reveal that vividly imagining successful outcomes activates the same brain regions as physical practice. Your morning thoughts quite literally shape your brain's architecture, strengthening certain neural connections while allowing others to atrophy. Practical application of this principle requires recognizing how modern technology hijacks this vulnerable period. Checking smartphones within minutes of waking a habit for 78% of adults, according to Pew Research, floods the freshly primed with reactive stimulus, news, social media, before it can establish its own intentional direction. This explains the growing no screens for the first hour movement among top performers. Replacing digital consumption with deliberate creation, whether journaling, sketching business ideas, or practicing gratitude, exploits neuroplasticity to rewire your default thinking pattern. The Buddhist concept of right view emphasizes setting proper mental frameworks at daybreak, because ancient wisdom traditions understood what science now confirms. First thoughts influence subsequent perception. The metabolic and hormonal dimensions of morning mindset are equally critical. Cortisol levels naturally peak within 30 to 45 minutes of waking, the cortisol awakening response, creating a biological-fication system for whatever mental patterns you establish. Intentionally channeling this hormonal surge toward purposeful goals rather than allowing it to attach to anxieties or distractions creates powerful psychophysiological alignment. Research from the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center demonstrates that combining morning gratitude practices with physical movement like walking or yoga produces synergistic effects on both motivation and emotional well-being. Ultimately, your mornings present a daily opportunity to rewrite your subconscious scripts. Every inspirational book read before breakfast, every moment of quiet contemplation before checking devices, every goal reviewed while the mind is fresh. These are the invisible threads weaving the fabric of your future. The world's most impactful leaders didn't achieve greatness through time management alone, but through consciousness management in those first precious moments of each day. What makes this truth revolutionary is its democracy. The same neurological pills available to ancient philosophers and modern muggles are equally accessible to anyone willing to protect and direct their morning mind. Conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the secret to mastering your life does not lie in grand, sweeping gestures, but in the quiet, consistent discipline of how you begin each day. Waking early is not merely about gaining extra hours. It is about seizing control of your mindset, your momentum, and your destiny before the world has a chance to dictate its terms. Success is not an accident. It is a choice forged in the stillness of dawn. It is built on the foundation of mornings spent with purpose, where you feed your mind with intention, prioritize your goals with clarity, and move with deliberate action before distractions arise. The greatest men and women in history did not achieve greatness by chance. They rose while others slept, worked while others procrastinated, and claimed their future one sunrise at a time. The question is no longer whether you can transform your life, but when you will start. Tomorrow's dawn is your invitation. The alarm clock is your first test of discipline. The morning hours are your battlefield. Will you hit snooze and surrender to mediocrity, or will you rise, seize the day, and step into life you were meant to lead? The world belongs to those who wake up and take it. Will you be among them? Rise, act, conquer.